Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just a quick update for you all who tuned in to the last episode. First of all, apologize. I now know landscape's the way to go. So lesson learned on that one, and bear with me, still learning all the tricks to the trade in terms of video editing. But appreciate you guys sticking around to watch the second video. Seeing some variable results here, and I think that is due to an error on my part. So just gonna own up to it, fill you guys in on what I did, because I don't think I necessarily went into that detail during the last video, and then look at the results and then you understand why I'm seeing what I'm seeing. So let me just quickly turn around, kind of walk around the yard, and give you guys some insight in terms of what I did where and where I went wrong. All right guys, so this is a quick look at my yard and what it looks like after my application of lawn and weed killer about 3 days ago. Now, two things I want to point out here. One is what you can see is like a zebra effect is what I like to call it, but it's basically inconsistent spray pattern that I put down. And I know I recommended at the time, one thing that I wasn't using that I probably will use in the future is a dye, and that'll help to mark where you've passed so you avoid this kind of effect. Now, again, for this application, it's not that big of a deal, but if I was using something like a fertilizer, then what you will see in the lawn is some darker green areas and then some not darker green areas. Another thing that I also will recommend is a crisscross pattern, right? So if you watched my last video, you notice that I just went back and forth in the same direction the whole time. Again, if you want to increase your chances of having good equal coverage, you want to then crisscross, and that would eliminate some of that pattern that you see there. Again, for this application, not a huge deal, but I did want to point that out, that if you're not going to use a dye, you might run into that, and that's just something to be mindful of. The other thing I wanted to just highlight is that if you watched my last episode, I did make up 2 different batches of weed and lawn killer, and I think I goofed on the first batch because I'm seeing a little bit of different results when comparing my yard on this side as opposed to the other corner, which I'll walk over there in a little bit. But again, not a whole lot in terms of dead grass. Now, obviously there's an effect, don't get me wrong, but one thing that I just want to point out is that for this particular area, I actually had to mix 2 different products, right? So glyphosate, which is one product which everybody knows as Roundup, that's the trademark, and then I used Spectracide as the other one because I just ran out of the Roundup to make up the 4 gallons that I had. And now, in retrospect, that wasn't the smartest idea because they are 2 different active ingredients in terms of what's going to be killing the grass. So theoretically, you can argue that the glyphosate was diluted by half of what it should have been, and the Spectracide the same thing. So again, I'm thinking that's my theory as to why the effect on this part of the yard isn't as dramatic as the other side. So if we walk over to the other side, again, this is where I ran out of my first batch, and then I did 100% Spectracide, and you can just see the dramatic result that had, because I would say it's a good 90% of the yard that's already been killed off. Now again, this is just 3 days after application. Just shows you that the approach that I took on the first batch really, in retrospect, wasn't the appropriate way to go. You can't necessarily just mix 2 different weed and grass killers and expect to have good results, because you really need to pay attention to the active ingredients, and in this particular case they were 2 different active ingredients and it wasn't as effective. So not terribly disappointed. I had said that it will take more than just 1 application, and so that is what it's going to be. So I am back for round 2, and this time around got myself a fresh batch of Spectracide because it did wonders on this part of the yard. So I'm gonna stick with that because it just had very good results first go around. So back for round 2, 3 days after the first application. So treat you guys to another montage and hope you enjoy. guys, that will do it for this video. Thanks again for joining. Like I said, second application is down, so we'll give it another 2 or 3 days and see how things look. But optimistic that this time around I got it right. So fingers crossed, guys. Again, lesson learned. If you are dealing with mixing 2 different products, just make sure it's got the similar active ingredient. Otherwise, you're going to see some mixed results. Lesson learned on my part, hopefully for better results this time around. But again, well on our way to then start prepping the surface of the soil. Also anxious to get a video out there on the seed that I chose. Give you guys some insight as to how you can go about choosing the seed that's right for you. But again, going with different options here, and I think I got a good mix of what's going to work best for me in my region, which can differ depending on where you are in the country. So again, guys, thanks so much for watching, and hope to see you guys on the next one.